Hi, you're listening to the GWAK Podcast, episode 2, with me, Amber Bardell, and my friends Levi Aluede and Jacob Watkinson. As we've all recently made them, today we're going to be discussing making your debut short film and the experiences we've had along the way. Hi, so I'm here today with Jacob and Levi. I'm Amber, I co-direct GWAK, and I'm also a filmmaker. Today's podcast, we've come together to discuss our debut short films and how our mental health has been affected during the creative process.
Hello, I'm Jacob.
This is true, I am Levi.
Okay. So, yeah, I think, should we just discuss a little bit first up before we get into the nitty-gritty about our own films, just our lifestyles whilst making a film, because I think we all know it's really hard to maintain a healthy lifestyle whilst you're shooting something. It's very intensive.
Yeah. I'd say mine was never really, in the process of making films, it's never really been what I eat or anything like kind of physical. It has tended to be the mental kind of turmoil, I'd say, that kind of the strain on yourself mentally and kind of what you're trying to achieve and your expectations as well. I think expectations are kind of really damning in a lot of ways to how you perceive your film.
Yeah, well, I think, my first one was kind of interesting because it was actually like exciting, and obviously there's like a lot of meetings before you shoot. And every meeting was always fun and interesting, and even if it was like casting and you see like 10 people for a role, it's still fine, because you're like, yeah, I'm going to make a film, it's going to be the best one ever.
And as well, when it's the first time, you're like, wow, I'm casting a film, I get the choice of these actors, like, look at that, I've got all these options in front of me, like that. Yeah. I think, because we mentioned earlier, like, I think all of us have made short form films before these, but we're kind of discussing these as our debut films because they're those ones where we go, okay, I'm a filmmaker now. It may be only like 10 minutes or longer, but it's your film where you go, I want to actually show this around and tell people I'm a filmmaker now.
You're carving a style for yourself as well, I think, like something that really differentiates you from the crowd. It says this is me and represents you as accurately as you yourself think that you are.
Well, just doing all of that stuff and then obviously you shoot the film, and it was a 4-day shoot. Like, that was when like physical health, like, because all of that I was just drinking black coffee like the whole time. Didn't have time for really food. You wake up really early in the morning, seeing all these people, you're talking to all these different people every day, you have to schedule new meetings and stuff. And on the shoot as well.
Sorry.
Yeah, on the shoot as well, like, we only ate, other people had food, I only ate pizza because it was set in a party, so, there was pizza and beer and stuff like that.
You didn't want to waste it over, do you?
Yeah, so I just ate all that stuff and lived there.
But how do you think, like, the setting of a party impacted, like, your lifestyle whilst making it?
I think it probably impacted the crew and the actors more than it impacted me, because I was quite chill about the whole thing. I think it made everyone feel really relaxed because, I had about 15 people on set, 15 to 20 people on set, and half of them were cast as well because we were shooting a lot of scenes with different characters. And it just made everyone chill out because it's like, if you're not in that scene, you're just going to have a drink outside. And,
But where does that become a problem, I guess? Like, if there's alcohol on set and stuff?
I think become a problem? You know what? It never became a problem because I think I was so confident. And if the director was always like, it's fine, we're doing well. Yeah. We're on schedule. I mean, there were times where obviously it's a film, you fall back on schedule.
But you're the voice of reason on set.
Exactly, yeah. And as long as you keep your head up and you're like, yeah, we're going to do this shot next, blah, blah, blah. And, I always try and make sure I'm talking to crew and cast, even if they're not in that scene or whatever. Like, as long as if I can quickly run out and be like, hey, how are you doing? Are you good? Like,
is you're a real person then? I think sometimes our perception of directors in big films, it's like, ooh, there's that director. It's like you don't get to talk to them, and it's very separated. They only give commands, and it's very isolated from the rest of the crew, and it's kind of like, there's that hierarchy as well, which I think is an interesting thing, which we kind of learn about as we start to make films.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, 'cause it's not really instilled in you at all, like when you're, making things, even like, college films, or just like films as we are. I think that was the thing that I kind of had to struggle with as well, because, my last films, I had that, I was able to take the control that I had, but then working with a producer that was quite hands-on with stuff, and like, it was dictated more to me in a lot of ways. I think it was, that struggle was then brought up, and then a kind of internal struggle with the crew then, in that I wasn't able to do my job effectively, I suppose, at the end of the day.
How do you think that why do you think you've come to that conclusion, though?
Just from, oh God, put me on the spot.
Sorry.
No, it's just that the kind of, because of the nature of the shoot being there was such a huge crew of so many people, and that I didn't really know them. Like Levi was talking about having, meetings with the crew and stuff. That wasn't offered to me by the producer. It was all just like, no, I've got these people, they're going to turn up on the day. And so, like, by having a crew that, like, essentially didn't really care about the film, at least as much as I did, or pretty much anyone on the shoot that cared about it as much as I did, then I also wasn't able to, like, accurately portray my vision, because they just turned up on the day and everything was being done, already. Everything was set in motion. It was just kind of ripped away from me, I suppose.
I feel like, like you said about style, like finding your own style in your first film is like way that your mental health like breaks down, really. Yeah. But I feel like I did so much research before, and just filmmakers, directors talking about how they made films and stuff, and just in general conversation. And I always felt like your process of that from the very beginning of when you're like, I'm going to make a film, till the end of the film is your style, not really the product of the film.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's so interweaved. Like, I
feel
is, like,
yeah,
because
naturally.
With my film that I'm still editing now, Art as Catharsis, it's a documentary spanning a lot of different people, and it's about art and its positive impacts on different people in a very broad sense. And I think that was the thing that really worked for me, because I think you struggled to have your crew really connect with your actual subject matter of your film and the script and why you were making it. Whereas I think that was the most important thing to me, because I'd never really worked with many other people before. I really sat people down, like my editor, I have a really good relationship with her, because she was one of the first people I talked to about it. I think, like drunkenly at a party, she was like, oh, I'm going to edit your film. And I was like, actually, you know what, this person's really excited to work with me. Like, we've got the same kind of ideas about it, and you nurture that. And I think, sitting people down and just chatting to them like this for a long time and being like, this is what I really care about, and you can tell if they connect with you and they feel how passionate you are, and if they share that passion, like, that's how I definitely want to pick people in the future.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've learned, is literally just put a crew around you that care about it as much as you. Yeah. Spiritual warriors.
Even if sometimes they're not people who you necessarily think are the most like talented technically, or like they might be just less experienced. Because I didn't really know about her editing capabilities, but I think I took the chance, and actually she's been brilliant because she edits things how I would want them to be edited. Whereas I worked with, the structure of my film was quite unusual. I've worked with 3 different editors, because we've edited things in chunks, and then now we're putting it all together. So she's like my master editor, and then I had a couple of others to help out with the workload, because things kind of change in style a little bit throughout. But yeah, they weren't as connected and they weren't as passionate. They still really respected, I think they wanted to be on board because they knew how passionate I was about my film, but you can really tell who connects with it more through their work, and that really manifests in the final product.
I've noticed that with my editor as well, actually, because I would have happily edited my new film myself. I'm kind of used to doing that, but I was kind of skeptical about having an editor. People even said to me, like, oh, just edit it yourself, especially with like how much I kind of hated the outcome of the shoot, and just like the kind of headspace it put me in, where I literally didn't even want to touch the film for like months, really.
Yeah.
And so but working with the editor, it was quite interesting, because you could tell he actually cared about the script and actually was treating it with an intelligence that I wouldn't have really, when it comes to editing, like actually, and like prioritizing certain aspects of the story, or like, you know, connecting with another way. And I think having that person to bounce off of, which I didn't really have in a way that didn't feel like oppressive to me. This felt like healthy. So working with my editor Tom has actually been really beneficial, I think.
I think that's the thing, is nurturing healthy relationships. It's like every aspect of your life, you know. Having healthy relationships with people that you work with is just as important as, like, you know, in your friendships or your love life, like, because it's such a personal thing. I think some corporate jobs, maybe it's a little bit easier to just, because you go there 9 to 5, whatever, and then you leave. If you can separate that, I mean, I don't know about it, but it's like, I think creative paths, especially film, it's so all-encompassing, and sometimes you're literally living with the people that you're working with for, you know, maybe months, depends what you're making. But yeah, those healthy relationships are really, really important.
My film is called Ingenue, and it was this black and white, surreal, experimental film about a film composer who's at her own birthday party, and all these weird things start happening, and it's really about how women are treated in the 21st century by men. And it was, you know, I just wanted to make something that was something I cared about, but done in a way that was simple, but at the same time very different, you know.
How do you feel the subject matter of that, like obviously being a male and representing a story that's very much about female issues, and also the fact that that kind of links to mental health in the actual film?
Yeah.
How did that link with yourself making it?
The idea came from, I heard Ryan Gosling talking about his mum. He had a single mum, and he'd want to fight everyone on the street that he saw looking at her. And I felt like that, and that was the first time I ever heard anyone else say that, and I was like, that's the film. Like, it's about a younger woman dealing with that. And so to me, it was never supposed to be a female version of this. It was always it was like a male version of what I saw of this, because that's the only way I could do it. I couldn't pretend that I was a woman. And that's why the film I sort of shot in a very objective way, even though it's a very personal sort of thing, because it's meant to be like, if you were in the situation of this party, here is how it would play out, and every time it cuts in or something, that's actually the moment that you should be paying attention to. So you can watch the whole thing and not understand it, but feel uncomfortable and not know why, because it's so normalized, the things that are happening in it. And that was basically my goal of that film, and that was where all the mental health problems for me as a filmmaker came from, editing it and making it all the whole time, because I was like, oh, no one will get it, or is it really still about the same thing, or, you know, like, did I just fuck it up, basically.
I think that's something that's really difficult, is just the whole process is often really long, even if you're making a very short form piece. You ruminate over the topic, like the subject matter, for a long time, and you get to the point where I think it's like, if you say the same word over and over, you forget to, like, it just loses its meaning, and you're like, am I even saying a word anymore? I think it's like that when you make a film. If you're really passionate about the topic and really clear about what it's about, because it's more complex than just, you know, saying a word over and over.
Yeah, it's like saying a million words with every single motion, every cut, every all the light that's in it, you know. Yeah.
I think that's the thing, is like, you want to have like such a rigid, you want to have like every detail of your film be perfect, you know, within the edit and stuff. Like, you, as you're saying, like, when you cut in at a point, it's for a reason, you know. And I think so yeah, my film is called Our Father. I just shot it in June. I think I spent about probably better part of a year working on it, from script to conceiving it. And I'd kind of made a few short films before, but this was my first time, as I said, like, kind of really trying to break into the industry at large, I suppose, or just, you know, carve a name for myself. And so it's about a terminally ill priest with struggling with his fear of death as he meets an old friend on her deathbed. He's kind of trying to talk her through, and she essentially kind of plays the role that you typically have of him, of being, you know, like the confessional, I suppose, and just seeing him through it, and he's completely lost all hope in God. But I kind of wanted him to be demasculated in a lot of ways. So there's kind of 3 generations of women in the film. There's the young girl, the grandmother, and the mother, and each of them kind of have their own problems, and each of them look to him to solve it, both as a priest but also as a father figure. You have a feeling that he's kind of been in the family for a long time, and he's just kind of not able to do that for him. And I kind of wanted to, I guess, maybe tackle, maybe inadvertently as well, just why, how, when men are feeling demasculated by whatever is bringing them down mentally, and how they just feel like they can't provide for the people around them, or even just to reach out to the people around them because they're in need. Like, as being someone in a relationship for so long, I know that personally I don't really put my problems on my other half, really. I tend to like kind of just, maybe not bottle it up, but just even not think about it. And I think, but it's a bad thing, and I kind of wanted to bring that out a little bit and see what happened with that.
I think that's quite a typically masculine quality, just because in society it's not really acceptable to be so open about problems and discussing and expressing any kind of upset or confusion around emotions and things like that.
Could I ask you a question? Because you said you had a year between script to shooting.
Yeah.
How long did you have?
The initial idea, it's been about a year, but now we're going a bit longer because I still haven't finished.
We'll get there. That's so crazy, because I had a month from script.
But that's good.
And it wasn't really a script, it was an idea of
But that's things. Really interesting.
That's the thing, because you're also not embroiled within like the typical like film education that we're in. So I think you don't have that
university.
Like. This is the thing, like even the crew you work with, because you just choose like-minded people that are like artists, whereas the crew we might have are just someone that can rig a light the best, you know. And then so the way that you do it, I assume, or like your methods will be a lot different to the kind of the way that I've been traditionally brought up on. Like me, I did a 2-year media course, and now I've just done a year of CMP. So it's kind of essentially I've been making films for
just explain what CMP
contemporary media practice, which Amber and I both do.
Yeah, which is a kind of mixed media degree.
Fine art, photography, and film.
But we both lean towards the film side. I did my first year actually on a different course, and I've transferred because I used to do film.
We should talk about that maybe.
And I think that's the thing. We both have kind of similar background in which we go to the same university and we've studied that, and it's definitely on the film course, because you know a lot of people from the film course and you've worked with them, and vice versa with me working with you and people on CNP. It's in education, I think, in film education specifically, it's very much, they try and instill with you the idea of that traditional hierarchy on set.
Yeah.
The director does this, the first AD does this, and actually that's something I've really broken away from, and that's partly why I'm on the CMP course now, because they wouldn't allow me to have made my debut short, which we're discussing. I couldn't have made that on that course, which is why I've been, I single-handedly went and I pitched and got a small grant from a local film society, and I just kind of was like, this is something I'm going to do, but I've done it kind of all on my own. I've had loads of people help me along the way, but I've been the only core that's been from start to finish.
Yeah. But I think as we were talking about, because you were saying about like having the month, how do you think it differed from our process then, having just a month?
I mean, it was not a lot of time.
Was it? I mean, it sounds like you had enough.
Did you restrict yourself to that, or was it just kind of how?
I restricted myself to it because I thought I want to shoot it in summer, and that would be the best time. Right. I don't want to wait another year to shoot a film because I know I can do it now.
That's a big one.
And so we spent whilst we were casting, I had written it in like as quick as I could write it, which was the least amount of time I ever spent writing a script. So that's also strange for me, because I'd spent the years writing things before for other people or whatever, and now had written something really quickly that I was going to shoot instantly. But the whole process of like script to screen was just like the process I tried to figure out for myself as a filmmaker, like how do I do it? And I still just did the same thing, which was like listen to stories of filmmakers and think like, oh, well, how do they cast people? Or how does David Fincher shoot a scene? Well, he does it like 60 times. Well, I might not do it 60 times, but I might do it 20 times, stuff like that.
So that's an interesting thing as well, is like, because we were talking about time constraints as well, which I think really really screwed me over, I think, with my film.
Definitely incurs a lot of stress.
Yeah,
it does.
Pressures.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
and that's the thing, I think.
You have to sort it out, though, don't you? You have to just.
Yeah. On small budgets, you often don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And you're using locations which you don't want to pay for or whatever. It's like you've got to fire it out. But you don't necessarily know what you're doing too well to get it right so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's the process thing as well.
Exactly.
Like, I produced it and I co-produced it in that I produced it like start to finish, but I had a producer who did a lot of like casting stuff and like admin stuff for me at the start, so I could just. But I had worked with her in a different way on a previous film, and for me that worked perfectly because I knew like I'm not going to have much time. So, for example, 2 shots per scene, 3 shots. That means I can do 20 takes for the main bit and like 7 takes for the close-up. And so it was working in a way where I knew that it'd give me more time, I wouldn't have to spend as much money, I could be creative as I want, and that always, I guess, depends on which film you're doing at any given time, but I knew for my first film I wanted to do that.
Well, it's just being like clever with your time, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
it's a lot of just scheduling. It's just scheduling,
literally.
like boring shit.
Yeah.
And that breaks you down.
Yeah, it really crushes you into the mud. I think my main advice when it comes to that aspect is to any people about to make the first film. If you because I was seeking out a producer for like a couple of months, because I knew that I kind of needed someone to help me out with it because I was doing everything. I'd storyboarded it. I'd already gone through like 3 or 4 drafts of the script, and then I get a producer on board, and then it kind of changed even more drastically. And I think, there's lots to learn from my mistakes, but I think one thing I really learned was that your idea needs to be solid, and throughout the kind of rewriting stage, make sure you always grasp onto that, because I think I maybe lost a shred of why I was making the film because of just the amount of rewrites it went through. Everything that I was like in love with had kind of just gone in the end, and I eventually, luckily before shooting, I kind of rediscovered what that was. But I think that can kind of throw you off a bit, and it left me like kind of uneager to shoot the film, really. Like I remember talking to you about it quite a lot, but I think another problem that I had was just make sure you have a producer that really understands what you're trying to do, or like if you're working with someone that closely who's like having such a like hands-on, as like a team, really make sure that they understand what you're trying to say and what you're trying to do.
Produce your own film.
Exactly, which is what I'll probably do next time. But I don't think I could have done that before. That's the thing, because you can do aspects. Which I did. I cast it myself, and I did try and like keep on that, but you still have to you need someone that has that personality type as well.
Because I did mine in a month, and the main thing that I wish I had was a producer who was going to read this. I did how she read the script and gave me pointers and stuff, but I really wish I had more time and a producer who was like more emphatic about like, change this, I don't get this, keep it simple,
Yeah.
Because it was so artsy. By the time I shot it, it was still artsy and stuff, but I was editing it and I was like, did I go too far?
But then you can do everything in the edit anyway. I feel like...
Well, not everything.
Well, no, but as in you could create it, it could have been a completely different film to what you set out, but you could edit anything into something good, I'd say, more or less.
I think if you shoot it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the key, I suppose.
Yeah. I think you Jacob, said something earlier about instincts, and I think, quickly on the producer note, I had a producer, but I guess I started the project without one, and that kind of I maintained that throughout slightly. Like she's helped me and supported me doing paperwork and things, but actually I've done half of her role as well, and it's not because she's a bad producer. It's just that's how it's manifested itself, and sometimes that's just how it goes. But I think that works for me, and yeah, you mentioned instincts. I think that's something that we really all have to start trusting a bit more, is our own instincts. If you're really not sure, then seek advice, talk to those people that you feel really support you.
Yeah, in a circle.
Yeah.
But you've got to choose those people wisely as well.
Exactly, and I think we in the modern world we aren't really using our instincts in the ways that I guess maybe people used to do further. I mean, people who talk about trusting your inner gut feelings and instincts, it's a bit spiritual. Like, don't want to do that. Like, just do something like how it's meant to be done or whatever. But actually, I think instincts have actually carried me through my process of making my film really well, because we talked a lot about choosing people, but also choosing subjects for your film, because as a documentary, my film involves a lot of different people. I wanted to really present a spectrum of people who create art in all kind of mediums, all backgrounds, things like that. And just show their different ways of how it benefits them, and spread that message of how art can be beneficial for mental health and things. The title's Catharsis, and catharsis means a release, and often it's about art for therapy. And I think I really wanted to pick people who they represented a spectrum, and I had to really trust my instincts when meeting some of these people which I hadn't met before, and just go, right, I'm going to meet you once and we're going to talk. Like, some of these people, though, we would be in a coffee shop and we'd talk for 3 hours and you go, yeah, this is the right person.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to just have a little chat or I'm going to email them. Like, really go out of your way if you're going to use people which you don't have much time with before, you don't already know them. Try and really, engage with them before you film, because that made a hell of a difference. Definitely while shooting.
I think as well as having them engage with your idea.
Exactly, that really helped a lot as well, because I think that's the thing, as soon as you start engaging with people, my topic was about art and mental health, and I think everyone can engage with their own, we all have our own issues with our mental health, everyone has things that stress them out or whatever. It could be, there's a whole spectrum within that, but everyone can relate to that. And I think if you're creative, you do, even without knowing it, I think you do, even our films are kind of cathartic for us to make.
Yeah, that's what as you were saying, that was what I was thinking, was it's kind of, it's almost like exercising the doubt within yourself about what you can do or create, and it's just creating. I guess it's just that natural process of getting out there. But coming back to, because I was wondering what your process was like with your lead actress. Because with my lead actor Stephen in my film, and Mary as well, the two leads, is that was the one thing I really appreciated. As I was kind of maybe losing a grip on certain other aspects of the production. With those two, it was really great to have a great connection with them, where we really took the time to add depth to their characters and create all these backstories and getting them together. And I think the actors were definitely kind of the saving grace for me in maintaining my sanity, I suppose, on the film, and just still getting why I'm creating it.
I can, from watching your film, I can tell from watching it, that was the strongest relationship on the screen. For the actress, films take such a long time to make, and they're so fucking hard, and it's the whole, the schedule thing is really difficult. And so I had an actress who I pitched the film to a long time before. She'd read the script and we were gonna rehearse, and then she broke her arm. And then I had another actress who I was she's perfect, she looks like the person, she wants to do it, and she was just never available, and we never met. And then we were suddenly a week before shooting, and we'd done casting, I hadn't found anyone that I thought could do it. And then someone walks in, and then they're I love the script, tell me about it, blah 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 blah, and you're finally.
Yeah, it's so good to have that, isn't it?
And she was great, because it was a week before, but and this is what it's like when you choose people, she gets it, but also she was willing to put in the time every day to talk to me on the phone and go through the script, and that's why it was able to work, because of that.
That's the thing, because that could have gone such a different way if you just got a week before, you call her once or whatever, but because you were still able to really, it's having a connection as well, being comfortable with each other.
And it's she's in almost every single shot of that film. And she's the first person on set with me as a cinematographer and a director, and the last person, well, I'm the last person to go, but she's the last person before me to go. She's always there, and so your actors have to be able to go above and beyond for you, which is why they're great.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
They're forgotten heroes, I think.
They really are, you know.
They're great.
And those real people that let you just have a window into their
access,
lives.
They actually really open themselves up.
Yeah.
That's the great
another
thing.
thing. Like I mean, one of the people in my film, I went and visited some family in Tasmania, and they were just like, oh yeah, we know this guy, you should definitely meet him. And he lives pretty much off-grid and just lives in this little house and does his art and makes chairs and things. And it's like, I met him for like half an hour, we chatted, and he was like, oh yeah, he said something weird to me, like, oh, I feel like we have a connection, we're going to meet again. And then the next, like, that evening, I was like, oh, I want him in my film. And we hadn't started shooting yet. And I just was like, well, I have a camera with me, I have a little recorder with me, I'll just do it. I'll see if he'll let me, because he was quite eccentric, I wasn't sure if he would let me. And I was like, well, I have to try, you know, it's just like, I was like, I have to try, like, it's such an instinct. And went there, and he was like, yeah, and he was really happy to do it. And
that looks gorgeous.
Quite honoured, thank you.
I've
not seen enough of your film, I really want to see it. Can't wait.
Well, exciting to share with
Send
everyone.
me a cut, hurry up.
I will. Well, we haven't got the first full cut yet, then you will see it.
Yeah, no, I do want to see it as a whole thing. That's the fun thing, because I mean, I've been editing since I shot June, and it's just been edited since then. We're kind of like nearly finished the cut.
So we shot my film was shot in June as well, but that was like a June before.
Last one. And when was it released?
And it was turmoil. It was horrible. But the finished version was released like beginning of January.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to have it out in October, just because I was like, October is when I want to release it, and that was dumb.
See, mine's because of festivals. That's what like the pressure I now have on me
festivals
is for that festival release, and I'm like, that's the thing.
Don't give in,
because I still need to get it sound edited, and like my sound editor lives in New Zealand, dude, and I'm like, you know, it's gonna be really difficult.
Oh yeah, I have to do CGI for smoking in every scene. That's fine. I can just get that done.
Just do one of those smoke overlays, put the opacity at 50%. It'll look a bit dark. It's cool.
Don't do that. Spend as much time as you need.
That's the thing.
Because once it's out, it's going to be out forever. So your time you make, it's a long time making it, but like it's still a lot shorter than the time it's going to be out for.
It's interesting because that's the thing. Like you were saying, like to shoot it. Because I think in my mind I almost had it that you'd like did everything, even released it within a month. But then I realised like the edit is like such a huge process as well, which we probably haven't really spoken about, but like even the edit is quite grueling for
that's
watching it change in front of you.
I think that's you said to me that Levi, you wrote a whole document whilst you made it on Gnu, and I assume that was mainly during the edit.
That was.
What do you mean a document?
I wrote a whole document about how I felt about the movie. It was like so deep. It was like
pour your heart out.
It was like, this film is a bastard to me. I don't really feel like it's one of my films.
That's exactly like what I said to you.
I said the exact same thing, because I'm coming from the perspective that I haven't finished yet. I might go through that soon, but actually right now I'm quite happy with how it's going. But I know I think I've done something really unconventional, and I've just really followed my gut the whole way. Whereas you guys, you've really had that heart-wrenching moment whilst making your films.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have had that, and it's good to discuss that.
But it's good to push through it.
You push through it,
You push through it because you find out that scene doesn't work. I should cut that out.
That's the beauty of it. This is what I'm saying to you, like I was saying earlier. Like,
200 times.
You can just edit it out. That's the beauty of it. You can literally do whatever you want.
When you're doing a narrative, like I did a documentary after, and it was like, I mean, it was, you know, had its own problems, but it's freedom in terms of editing. But with a narrative as a script, and it's like if you start cutting things out, you start losing pieces of the pie, and suddenly it doesn't look like a pie anymore. It just looks like a
This is the
fucking
problem
mess.
I really have to do. Like, I was saying to you guys earlier, I don't know if it was on the record, but I was saying like the main take, like the master take for my the main conversation scene in my film was 12 minutes, and that's got to be like the length of the film. The film now in this cut is 10 minutes long, and so like we've had to chop a lot of. Literally, although this is the thing as well, saying as well about having like an editor that you can trust, was he was able to say this is kind of an obsolete line, and from that actually made it better. But there's you need that. But
That's the thing, I think.
You've got to retain something there.
Throughout the whole process, they always say, you know, editing's still creating. Like, every part of the process, you have to. Sometimes I think, especially when you're making a narrative as your first film, you write it and you think, okay, we have to edit to the script. But no, you have to get past that idea that your first idea of the film was perfect, because it's gonna change and you're gonna just accept that and grow with it.
Well, this is what I was saying I learned with the writing as well, how I said like it kind of got carried away without me, and I'm not gonna let that happen this time.
Yeah, but you know, I remember shooting it and being like, if it doesn't work, we'll just cut it out. And I was so happy to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe you do cut stuff out, but it gets to a point where you're just grinding it, and to the point where you're just like, what do I cut out? I don't get it. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, is this it? This isn't me. This isn't good enough. Like, I'm not good enough to be a filmmaker.
So not just me then. Oh, good. I thought it was just me.
Seriously though.
Yeah,
you're like, this is your first film. Like, why am I shit at it?
But it's also like, why are you putting this pressure on yourself? That's one thing I realised. I'm like, why have I got this completely unrealistic expectation to like make grand cinema when, like, you know, I've just finished my first year at uni, I've made a few short films, but like, you know,
and you've got like £1,000 budget, like £1,000 budget for your film.
Yeah, I mean, much less than that sometimes, and it's like, you know, look at the people you aspire to be like. Their films had way bigger budgets, they had way more time, like they always had that, you know, one of those things on that chart where you're like time, money, whatever, and yeah, you're as well. If you look back at some of the short films that those big directors that you aspire to be like, they made their first thing. Well, you probably can't find their very first thing, which was awful. They probably only put out like that thing that's a bit shit but kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing as well. Like that I've really been struggling with. I mean, when it comes to the mental health aspect, is the film hasn't felt a lot, for the most part, kind of like what I wanted to actually make or say. Even from like a stylistic point of view, like the shoot was kind of a nightmare. The DP wouldn't do anything I asked, and it was all just very like, it was just an uphill battle. And so all of the kind of the style and the feel of the film I wanted is gone. So I'm like, at this point, I've been kind of trying to work out whether I want to release the film. I kind of want to release it to exercise it and get rid of it, but then I also don't want, I just hate the thought of people seeing it and thinking that's what I can do, when it's not.
I think that's the thing we have to get past a bit as well, though. I think you put so much effort into a film that I always kind of go by, I think it's worth sharing, whatever I make, even unless it's like something you spent only a day on and you hate it through and through. Like if you've gone to all that effort and you've involved other people, like there is an expectation that puts pressure on you, but releasing it and moving on, like that's the most important thing. Everything becomes part of your portfolio then, and you go, actually I hated that, let's do something completely different. It shows you've got these different things in your portfolio and you can move on.
Versatile, which is just as important. Like I it wasn't a completely useless film. I've learned shit.
Always just make the best version of that thing that you can do.
Yeah, with what you've got, and then
like my doc was like however long I wanted it to be, but literally someone says to you it has to be 3 minutes, and I'll make the best 3 minutes. And yeah, it's always just about the more time I've spent away from those films, the more I've thought, actually I'm quite happy with that. That's good. I can do better next time.
There's always a next time anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on that, on that note, I mean, we're gonna have to save this till next time. We're gonna wrap it up.
There's always a next time.
Yeah. Thank you guys.